Today we are excited to talk with Danielle from Skanska.
The drone program we have at Skanska is amazing. We have civil, building, and commercial development. We have a VDC network. We're about to launch a laser scanning network. What is the value of VDC and how do we bring that to our projects?
So many of these cool new technologies are in their own little silo and require their own software.
We're really thinking about interoperability and complementary tools to our tech stack, knowledge share across the organization, and be able to connect those dots. Look to give our community as many resources as possible.
Welcome to another episode of Reality Capture Network. Today we are excited to talk with Danielle from Skanska. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I am excited to chat with you about what's going on, but first let's introduce you and your role and kind of what you do at the company.
Sure. So I'm the Senior Director of Emerging Technology for Skanska USA Building. We are a national group who is focused on operational efficiencies and finding ways to bring new technology into the business to really improve project outcomes.
That's awesome. How long have you been in the role?
I've been in my current role for, this is going on 2 years, I think now, with the organization in a similar role. It's evolved for over 6 years now.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And Skanska's a big company.
Yes.
That sounds like maybe overwhelming to me. In the time that you've been in this role, 6 years in that specifically, what are some of the initiatives you've kind of been focused on? Certain technologies you're diving into or certain challenges you're trying to solve? What would be a couple you could share?
Yeah, so when I first joined the team, we were really focused on building turnover and how to really enhance, we call it enhanced turnover, the closeout process, and really think about what deliverables would make sense for clients versus, the old binders, literally paper binders. We were handing over paper drawings, and how could we digitize that process, and how could we really understand what a client needs instead of just handing them over a pile of junk that sits on a cabinet or in a cabinet and collects dust. So that was my focus initially. And then, of course, VDC, that's my background. And spent a lot of time just trying to evolve technology with the VDC and making sure that our coordination processes were more standardized across the board, but also looking at, what is the impact, what is the value of VDC, and how do we bring that to our projects? I worked with a lot of clients on their BIM and VDC standards as well. And then there was this shift, probably pandemic timeframe, like 2020, where it became more of like, we need people focused on robotics and 3D printing and AI now, right? All the things that are coming down the pipeline, and we need to understand how they're going to impact our business, our clients and their businesses. And so that's where we're really focused today, and that's how the role has evolved.
That's awesome. So many of those new technologies. So the robotics side, you see the Spot robot dog, and everybody's talking about AI. What are some of those like really leading edge technologies that you guys are looking at, and which ones are you like actually pulling in and using today, or do you see coming? Yeah,
so I'll start with AI. It's going to be a topic of the discussion I have later today on the panel, but AI it's amazing how a slow-moving industry like construction has started to adopt AI. And I know we're unique in that we have the resources and the data strategy behind how we use it, but we were really, as soon as ChatGPT became available and people started using it, we were on top of like, here's how you should use it. Here are the things you should put into ChatGPT. Here, be smart about it, right? So we were on top of educating people on that. And we've since rolled out Copilot internally. So really just trying to knowledge share across the organization and be able to connect those dots better than we have in the past. So that's one. I think robotics, we were on a global call actually this morning talking about robotics and drones being part of that. But let's talk about just like layout robots, for example, first. A lot of potential. I think one area we need to focus on in the next couple of years is how do we get our subcontractors on board? Right? We're the general contractor, so it's hard for us to push. We can put it in our contracts, but is that actually saving us any cost? Right? It's saving us time. We've done those studies, but is it saving us cost? How can we get the subcontractors to just really see the value there and say like, we're on board. And then the drone program we have at Skanska is amazing. It's actually across our business units in the US. So we have civil, building, and commercial development. And I think one of the things that's been eye-opening to me is I've always been into laser scanning, but like the power of the drone group and the community and the deliverables is just like, it's almost, the value is instantaneous. Everyone can see it. And that's harder to say for some of these other technologies, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. What would you say in your role? So obviously Skanska has identified like the need to look at these technologies, try to adopt them. I would assume you still have challenges with implementation of new innovative technologies, or maybe certain people, even within the organization, that have that hesitance to change. They like things, they like to be comfortable. What has that experience been like for you implementing internally?
Yeah, I think over the last 3 to 5 years, we've implemented enterprise solutions like Struction Site and Procore, for example. So it has shifted. When we talk with vendors, we're like, do you integrate with those tools? So I think even my mindset have shifted a lot to think about the user interface and the experience of our field teams, because that's one of the biggest challenges. If they're just learning how to use Procore, to take on another tool is a lot. So we're really thinking about interoperability and complementary tools to our tech stack versus like, here, let's put something else on your plate.
Yeah.
So how can we make their lives easier?
That's a good point. There's a lot of cool devices, but sometimes if it's not integrated well, it's probably really challenging. And I think the bigger the organization, the more challenging, because you have so many people. How do you guys go about when you've proven a technology, you decide that it's worth doing? How do you go about trying to actually roll it out? Because how big is Skanska?
So Skanska in the U.S. is about, I'll say building, I think is about 6,000.
Okay.
So yeah, we have 30 offices across the country. So that is challenging. I'll start maybe like a little bit further back. Okay. So of course, we get a lot of people that are interested in innovating and using new technology. One of the biggest challenges for us is like finding the cost to do that.
Yeah.
Not a lot of things come for free, right?
Yes.
And then also finding the champion on the project who's actually going to be able to dedicate the time and the resources to make sure that pilot is successful. So we've spent a lot of time developing a program around that in conjunction with our IT team to ensure that it's also safe from a cybersecurity perspective. We're thinking about data privacy. So things that we may have not thought of in the past are now just top of mind.
Yeah.
So once we've evaluated a technology, we really try to make sure we're targeting different projects, different geographies, different market sectors, so that we can understand the value. And is it really there, or is it just there for a certain specific project type in a certain market sector in a certain geography, right? We've got to really think about, does this wholeheartedly affect our operations? And so we have this process we call tech enablement, where we do that evaluation with IT team, and then we make those decisions. Those get escalated up to our senior leadership team for evaluation. But there's a lot of change management that happens, of course, with that. Our team, our emerging technology team specifically, will stay on board and work with our IT team to ensure successful rollout. So we'll build out the training. If the vendor that we're working with has training modules, we'll figure out how to incorporate those. If we have to build our own, we'll do that as well. And then we'll just look to give our community as many resources as possible. And actually, I'll say Microsoft Teams is a great way to do that.
Awesome.
We have, I mentioned our drone network. We have a VDC network. We're about to launch a laser scanning network.
Very cool.
So it allows people that are, really using the technology day to day to interact with each other. And we have calls quarterly to connect them as well.
That's great. What would you say, kind of in the industry, around the technologies or things you're trying to implement, what do you think some of the industry challenges that you're facing are? Whether it's understanding how to use certain tools, or identifying which tools to implement, or challenges you see with tech that you want to use. What's something that comes to mind around some challenges?
It's hard to pick just one.
I know.
I'll use something that's recent and top of mind for me, which is I'm going to use digital twin, for example.
Yeah.
That has a very broad meaning, right? I think our clients are asking for it. they don't know what they're asking for.
Nope.
So I think one of the biggest challenges that comes from that is just the ability to educate our team so they have the tools to say, hey, we think you're asking for this, or let me ask you a few more follow-up questions to make sure I understand what you're asking for. So education of our clients and our teams, I think, is one of the big challenges. That'll continue to be a challenge until the value is very obvious, right? Right in front of their faces. So yes, that's one. I think the tech stack thing, we have so many tools, as you can imagine, as I think any company of any size, outside of our humongous tech stack around, Procore and Autodesk tools and Microsoft tools, all of our enterprise tools, we have a bunch that stack on top of that. So the tech stack and integration and the vendors that we work with, I feel like I'm trying to program them to talk a little bit differently when they're talking with our project teams and think about, hey, what solution do you replace? So if you come to us and say, oh, we do the same thing as your existing tools, that's not helping, right? So rather, let's look at, well, actually, we've replaced 3 of your existing tools, and then we have a really compelling case.
Yeah, I think that's one issue we see with a lot of the tech now is that so many of these cool new technologies are in their own little silo and require their own software, and some of them don't speak to each other. And so thinking about how do we integrate and make it easy? Sometimes I don't think about that part. I'm like, oh, these technologies are cool. We just need to get them implemented. But when you're looking at the usability and how easy it is to implement, sometimes that might be the most important thing in order to actually make the adoption happen.
Absolutely, yeah.
What are you focused on here at the event? Are you looking for any new technologies? You kind of just, what's your goal in coming to something like GeoWeek?
I'm always interested in, so I was sitting in a session this morning about AI and machine learning and how it's impacting the geospatial world. Cool. And I think that's really interesting to me. I'm excited, not to plug my own panel, but to talk about rollout to ROI of AEC technology, because it's what we're talking about right now. There's so many challenges, and that's what I'm encountering day to day. So I'm looking to learn some tips and tricks from the panelists this afternoon.
Great. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming and talking for a bit. Our goal with RCN is kind of building a community of people that are focused on innovation, people who are trying to implement new technologies. Because one thing that I've seen over the years is so many of us are struggling, and we are learning the hard way, and we're continuing to learn the hard way, even though there's a solution, right? And I believe as an industry, if we collaborate and we share, we work on pilots together, we do a case study on a project and share it with the industry. So many people have all this information over the years that's kept secret. And I'm like, I see all these challenges, and my hope is, I know it's a cliche saying, but I say it a lot, is the rising the tide, lifts all boats. I'm like, we need more tide rising. Like, we need to add to this community together and share these outcomes, because everybody's kind of doing it on their own. And I think collaboration is one of the keys to really getting this integrated and the innovation process, successfully moving forward for companies.
I absolutely agree with you. I think I come back inspired from these conferences when I network with people that are in a similar role to mine and a competitor even. And, you can take off the competitor lens and you can look at okay, what challenges are you facing? Oh, they're the same as mine?
Yes.
Let's learn from each other.
Yes. Well, thank you again for joining. Excited to see what you guys continue doing, and hopefully this isn't the last time people will hear from you.
Definitely. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you.